There's a reason Princess Anne is referred to as the hardest working royal.
The unprecedented celebration marking Princess Anne's 76th birthday, closely intertwined with the centenary of the late Queen Elizabeth II's birth, has just triggered one of the most violent seismic shocks within the British royal family. To honor his younger sister's 58 years of relentless devotion, King Charles shattered all established protocol, granting her permanent ownership of the priceless Brazilian Aquamarine Tiara, bestowing upon her the title of Grand Guardian of the Realm, and securing Gatcombe Park's perpetual inheritance for her two children, Peter and Zara. Yet this very celebration became the trigger for Queen Camilla's backstabbing strike. Citing the excuse of an odd-numbered milestone to downplay the event's stature, Camilla covertly swapped the seating chart, banishing Anne's entire family to a dim table 18 right next to the kitchen garbage disposal. Little did she expect that Prince William would discover it ruthlessly, tearing apart her vile trap, and alongside Catherine, Princess of Wales, elevate Anne to the highest seat of honor with a gold-gilded chronicle as their gift. How will Camilla face utter humiliation when her divisive scheme is laid bare right in the Great Hall of Gatcombe Park? And how will the unbreakable alliance of King Charles, Prince William, and Princess Anne establish a new order? Let us uncover the entire shocking truth unfolding behind the palace doors. On August 13, 2026, the black wrought iron gates bearing the family crest of the Gatcombe Park estate in Gloucestershire closed behind the royal vehicle bearing the royal standard as it entered the grounds. There were no brass fanfares, no television cameras, and no sprawling red carpets, yet the silence enveloping the ancient stone corridors carried the weight of an impending historic event. Inside a private drawing room in the estate's west wing, Princess Anne stood with a straight spine by the tall window. At 76 years old, time seemed powerless to bend her disciplined posture and the resolute gaze of a woman who had worn honorary military uniforms for decades. Facing her, King Charles III sat pensively by an oak tea table. Months of grueling health treatments had carved deep lines of exhaustion into the monarch's face. Simultaneously elsewhere in the royal fold, Catherine, Princess of Wales, was also dedicating all her strength to her personal recovery regimen. The British monarchy had never faced such an acute shortage of working royals or been so vulnerable. Amidst the relentless storms besieging the throne, Princess Anne remained its steadfast anchor, an unyielding shield keeping the institution upright against every tempest of public opinion. King Charles sighed softly, yet his eyes shone with determination as he looked at his sister. Reaching out, he opened a crimson leather-bound box on the table and retrieved a top-secret royal decree bearing his personal red wax seal. Bypassing all intermediaries, this decree was the monarch's unequivocal declaration of gratitude to a sister who had served with unbroken dedication for 58 years without a single day of rest. Charles announced a decision that broke all royal precedent, hosting a grand celebration to honor Anne's 76th birthday on August 15th, intertwined with the centenary of the late Queen Elizabeth II's birth, 1926-2026. Although the royal family traditionally held no major galas for odd-numbered milestones, Charles insisted that Anne's half-century of sacrifice warranted the highest honors from the entire institution. The terms laid out in the decree struck like hammer blows directly into the core of royal power. King Charles officially bestowed upon Princess Anne the supreme title, Grand Guardian of the Realm. This title was no mere paper honorific. It carried top-secret national security advisory authority and decisive veto power over all arrangements by the Royal Ceremonial Committee. Furthermore, the king decreed that the entire Gatcombe Park estate be designated a Royal Heritage Site, fully funded for life by the Royal Trust, permanently locking legal ownership and inheritance for Anne's two children, Peter Phillips and Zara Tyndall. The most sacred moment arrived when Charles personally opened an adjacent blue velvet chest. Beneath the soft glow of the chandelier, the Brazilian Aquamarine and Diamond Tiara, belonging to the late Queen Elizabeth II, emerged breathtaking and dazzling. Deep ocean blue aquamarines encircled by hundreds of perfectly cut diamonds radiated an aura of pure authority. Charles granted Anne permanent private ownership of this heirloom, signifying an immortal transfer of spiritual legacy from their late mother to her most resilient daughter. Yet the room's solemnity was not untainted. Just a few meters away, hidden behind the heavy velvet drapes of a side corridor, Queen Camilla stood frozen in place. Her eyes widened, transfixed by the shimmering blue light of the Aquamarine Tiara. Every word Charles uttered regarding Anne's veto power and the perpetual ownership of Gatcombe Park for Peter and Zara burned like fire against Camilla's long-held ambitions. She had repeatedly sought to absorb that aquamarine treasure into her private collection and had schemed to reclaim Gatcombe Park's lands to distribute among her loyal faction. Now all her schemes were brought to a sudden halt by the king's decree. Clenching her fists against her silk gown until her knuckles turned white with rage, a deep fear of losing her influence, coupled with intense jealousy, surged within Camilla, compelling her to take immediate action before the grand banquet on August 15th officially commenced. That very night of August 13th, upon returning from Gatcombe Park, Camilla retreated to her private office at Clarence House. The luxurious space was heavy with suffocating tension. Camilla summoned her closest aide, a key coordinator on the Royal Ceremonial Committee. The thick wooden door slammed shut, and all servants were strictly ordered away from the hallway. Camilla's expression shed its customary public pleasantness, replaced by steely calculating resolve. She knew she could not openly defy the king's decree, but she commanded subtle subterranean tactics, sharp enough to turn Anne's day of celebration into an indelible humiliation. Camilla initiated her plan by weaponizing the excuse of royal custom. She told her aide that hosting a grand gala for an odd-numbered milestone, like a 76th birthday, violated traditional decorum and would provoke unwarranted gossip among the nobility. Speaking with veiled intent, Camilla instructed the ceremonial committee to tone down the banquet's scale, ensuring it did not exceed the standards of an ordinary reception. But her truly venomous blow lay in the seating layout of Gatcombe Park's Great Hall. On her desk lay the official seating chart for the evening of August 15th. According to the highest principles of honor, Princess Anne, the focal point of the grand celebration, and her immediate family were to be seated at Table 1, situated at the exact center of the hall on equal footing with the King and the Prince of Wales. Holding a red ink quill, Camilla drew a decisive slash, crossing out the names of Princess Anne Peter Phillips, Zara Tyndall, and Mike Tyndall from the central table. Her eyes gleamed with malice as she moved Anne's entire family all the way down to Table 18. That table was obscured behind a massive marble pillar on the hall's outermost fringe, the bleakest spot in the room, devoid of chandelier light, adjacent to the noisy waitstaff thoroughfare, and directly facing the kitchen's waste disposal exit. In the honorary seats surrounding the king at the center, Camilla inscribed the names of her sycophants and high-ranking noble allies. Her objective was brutally cruel, to engineer a public humiliation skillfully masked under the pretense of standard seating protocol for an odd-numbered milestone. She wanted Anne freshly invested by Charles with the prestigious title of Grand Guardian to taste the bitterness of sitting with her children in a dim forgotten corner, enduring the pitying glances and hushed mockery of high society. This strike was meant not only to degrade Anne's dignity, but also to serve as a silent warning to anyone who dared threaten Camilla's Supreme Court standing. Folding the altered seating chart, Camilla sealed it carefully into a black leather briefcase and handed it to her aide. She issued a strict directive the diagram was to be kept top secret until exactly 2 hours before the banquet began. The decoration team was authorized to place the silver nameplates on the tables only at the very last minute, once the guests had fully assembled. Camilla calculated that with the fait accompli in place, Anne would have no choice but to take her seat at the outer table to preserve the crown's public decorum, unable to voice a loud protest before a crowded hall. Watching the aide's retreating figure, Camilla let a triumphant smirk curl across her lips. She was confident her trap of dishonor was laid to perfection and that no one could reverse the tide. While dark schemes were brewing at Clarence House, the atmosphere at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor Castle was steeped in reverence and dedication. Inside a warm study, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were hard at work over a long table covered in precious historical archives. Despite feeling physically drained from her ongoing medical treatments, Catherine adamantly refused to step back from this special project. Her eyes glowed with pride as she worked alongside her husband, refining every page of the invaluable tribute they had painstakingly prepared over several weeks. That gift was a monumental chronicle encapsulating Princess Anne's 76 years of life and 58 years of unwavering royal duty. Bound in premium Royal Navy blue leather, its corners and borders were hand-gilded in gleaming pure gold leaf by master jewelers. At the dead center of the cover, an anchor motif, the eternal symbol of Anne's steadfastness and unwavering loyalty to the throne, was embossed in solid gold. Within its pages were hundreds of unpublished archival photographs documenting Anne's journey from perilous overseas tours to intimate tender moments beside her beloved mother. To William and Catherine, this chronicle was far more than a birthday gift. It was an unyielding testament to their aunt's irreplaceable standing in the heart of the monarchy. On the morning of August 14th, just one day prior to the gala, Prince William personally drove to Gatcombe Park to inspect preparations. As an heir shaped by rigorous military discipline, William never tolerated oversights during pivotal family milestones. Stepping into the vast banquet hall, he immediately sensed an unnatural, evasive tension among the ceremonial committee staff. His innate political instincts warned him that something foul was unfolding behind his back. Striding purposefully into the event committee's temporary coordination office, William noticed a copy of the seating chart lying open amidst scattered papers. Leaning over to scan the guest list, his eyes narrowed his gaze, turning as cold as ice. Princess Anne's name, the guest of honor for this 76th milestone, had completely vanished from Central Table 1. Tracing the table numbers, William's eyes locked onto the bottom corner of the layout, Table 18. The printed text read clearly, Princess Anne Peter Phillips, Zara Tyndall, Mike Tyndall. A fierce fury ignited within the Prince of Wales. Requiring no further explanation, William marched straight out into the hall toward Table 18 to inspect the site firsthand. The nondescript round table sat sunken in shadows behind a colossal marble pillar. From there, any view of the raised honor dais was entirely obstructed. Worse, still less than 3 meters away, stood the metallic service door to the kitchen disposal area, where the stench of waste and the clamor of catering staff echoed incessantly. This was no careless oversight. It was a deliberate act of humiliation, a cruel insult hurled straight at a woman who had devoted her entire life to the realm. At that exact moment, Camilla's aide emerged from a side corridor, clutching the black leather briefcase tightly against his chest. Catching sight of Prince William's towering, commanding frame, standing rigidly beside Table 18, the aide panicked and made a hasty attempt to turn on his heel. William gave him no chance to escape. With decisive strides, he cut the man off right at the corridor junction. The overpowering authority radiating from the Prince of Wales seemed to freeze the surrounding air. Without raising his voice or resorting to force, William compelled the aide to unlock the briefcase with nothing more than a piercing stare and a chilling command. The original seating chart tumbled onto the floor, bearing the ruthless red ink cancellations that unmistakably marked Camilla's personal handiwork. William bent down, picked up the paper, and gripped it tightly in his palm. Ironclad evidence of his stepmother's treacherous trap now rested firmly in the hands of the heir to the throne. Holding the defaced diagram marked in red ink, Prince William betrayed no outward loss of composure. His fury transformed into a cold, calculated, and uncompromising counterstrike. He walked straight into the Gatcombe Park internal security room and ordered the doors locked. From there, William immediately established a secure connection with Catherine in Windsor. Viewing the altered layout and the disgraceful placement of Table 18 on the encrypted screen, Catherine was utterly appalled. Together, they arrived at an unequivocal resolution. They could not merely adjust the seats in silence. They had to transform tomorrow's gala into an arena that would expose the instigators' isolation and permanently crush the seeds of family division. William immediately summoned the event management leadership and the head of the royal security detail present at Gatcombe Park. Standing before the assembled staff, the Prince of Wales slammed the diagram bearing Camilla's handwriting down onto the wooden table. Before the stunned and terrified staff, William took the shameful document in both hands, tore it into shreds, and hurled it directly into the wastebasket. That decisive act served as an ironclad declaration. Camilla's counterfeit order held no validity before the heir to the throne. William pulled out a fresh blank seating chart. Pen in hand, he personally redrew the hall's entire layout. At Table 1, the highest table of honor, elevated on a red velvet dais, right at center stage, William meticulously penned Princess Anne's name in the place of highest prominence, immediately beside King Charles III's seat. Flanking her were Peter Phillips, Zara Tyndall, and Mike Tyndall. William positioned himself and Catherine directly beside Anne's family, forming an impenetrable unified block. As for the seats originally reserved for Camilla's sycophants and faction members, William struck them from the central dais, relegating them to the rear rows. Upon completing the new layout, William handed the document directly to the commander of the Royal Guard. He issued an absolute directive the entire banquet hall was to be placed under maximum security immediately. The doors were locked accessible only to personnel bearing the prince's security insignia. Anyone, even members of the ceremonial committee, or those acting under the Queen's authority, caught attempting to tamper with the table nameplates prior to opening, would be expelled from the Gatcombe Park estate without exception or delay. Concurrently at Windsor Castle, Catherine finalized the finishing touches for the gold-gilded chronicle. She carefully nestled the heirloom into a deep blue velvet presentation box, sealing it with a silk ribbon bearing the royal cipher. She also coordinated with the event's audiovisual team, preparing a special photographic retrospective to be broadcast live on the hall's massive LED screen at the decisive moment. Every move in William and Catherine's counteroffensive was executed in absolute secrecy. Meanwhile, back at Clarence's house, Camilla remained entirely immersed in a false sense of triumph, convinced her seating chart remained secure in her aide's briefcase, and that Anne's public humiliation before the assembled nobility was practically assured. On the evening of August 15, 2026, the grounds of Gatcombe Park glowed under warm golden illuminations. A procession of luxury motor cars filed into the estate. Hundreds of representatives from Britain's oldest aristocracy, seasoned statesmen, and influential high society figures gathered in full attendance. The expansive Great Hall was exquisitely appointed with fragrant designer candles, rare white orchids, and polished ancestral silver tableware. Yet beneath that veneer of opulence lay the suffocating electric tension of an impending court showdown. Queen Camilla arrived early, her appearance curated to perfection. Dressed in a shimmering emerald green silk evening gown, a radiant diamond necklace around her neck, and holding an exquisite feather fan, she wore an expression of supreme pride and satisfaction. She glided effortlessly among the distinguished guests, accepting deferential greetings and flattery from her loyal faction. Yet Camilla's mind was far from these hollow compliments. Every few minutes, her sharp gaze drifted toward the shadowy corner behind the massive marble pillar, the location of Table 18. Gazing upon that obscure table situated right by the kitchen service door, Camilla's smirk grew increasingly triumphant. She imagined how in mere moments, when the opening fanfare sounded, Princess Anne and her two children, Peter and Zara, would be forced to swallow their humiliation, walking with bowed heads toward that outer table, under the scrutinizing gaze of hundreds of onlookers. It would be the most crushing blow dealt to the pride of a woman who had served the crown for 58 years, a ruthless demonstration of who truly pulled the strings within the royal house. At precisely 7:30 p.m., the resounding call of brass fanfares echoed through the hall, heralding the arrival of the most senior royals. All chatter ceased instantly. Hundreds of noble guests rose in unison, fixing their eyes upon the towering oak double doors at the main entrance. The doors swung wide. Princess Anne entered with the presence of a true titan. She was draped in a stately dark blue velvet mantle, her chest adorned with distinguished medals, living testaments to nearly 6 decades of selfless service. Walking beside her were her 2 children, Peter Philip sharp and dignified in black tie, and Zara Tyndall radiant in an elegant black evening gown. But what took the entire room's breath away were the figures escorting Anne from just behind Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. William appeared in formal uniform as the Prince of Wales, commanding and resolute, his eyes forged like tempered steel. Beside him, Catherine radiated grace with an elegant smile. Though subtle traces of her medical ordeal remained, her aura exuded undeniable royal authority. The presence of the heir and his wife stood like an iron fortress, shielding Princess Anne completely against any underhanded scheme. The smirk on Camilla's face froze instantly as she registered their trajectory. Instead of veering down the right corridor toward the shadowed obscurity of Table 18, as her altered chart had dictated, Prince William stepped forward half a pace, extending a steady arm to guide Princess Anne straight down the central red-carpeted aisle. Anne's firm footsteps echoed across the breathless silence of the hall. William escorted his aunt straight up to the highest dais of honor. Before the assembled court, William respectfully pulled out the gold velvet chair at Table 1, the very heart of the celebration, positioned directly adjacent to King Charles III's throne, and formally invited Anne to be seated. Moments later, Catherine personally guided Peter Phillips and Zara Tyndall to their honorary seats alongside their mother, facing the assembled aristocracy. The scene struck Camilla like an icy splash of water. Her expression rapidly transformed from haughty triumph to ghastly livid shock. She whipped around to search for her aide, only to spot him trembling against the wall under the watchful escort of the royal guard. Camilla realized her trap had been shattered, yet her blind arrogance would not allow her to accept defeat quietly. Disregarding the formal decorum of the evening, Camilla gripped her feather fan and marched aggressively toward the head table, intent on instigating a fierce confrontation to claw back control before King Charles arrived. Reaching the edge of Table 1's elevated dais, Camilla fought to steady her voice, though she could not mask the shrill, venomous undertone. Staring intently at William with razor-sharp eyes, she challenged him for unilaterally upending the seating protocol, denouncing his action as an arbitrary insult to family tradition. Yet faced with his stepmother's aggression, William did not so much as flinch. He rose slowly from his seat. His towering height and commanding presence as the heir apparent forced Camilla to instinctively take half a step back. William offered no private reply to Camilla. Instead, he strode directly to the central podium in the middle of the hall and took the microphone. The hall's lighting converged entirely on the Prince of Wales. Absolute silence fell over the vast chamber, leaving only the suffocating tension of an imminent public reckoning. Looking directly out at the hundreds of aristocrats seated before him, William spoke in a voice both resonant and unyielding, like a formal verdict. "My lords, ladies, and gentlemen, we are gathered tonight at Gatcombe Park, not to witness petty divisive schemes, nor the small-minded envy that seeks to cast those who have served our nation with the greatest devotion into the shadows of obscurity." As William concluded his sentence, the colossal LED screen behind the stage, typically reserved for displaying royal insignia, suddenly shifted to black before lighting up in full high definition. The entire room gasped in sheer astonishment. A crystal-clear image of the original seating chart appeared before the assembly. The positions of Princess Anne, Peter, and Zara at Table 1 brutally slashed in red ink and relegated to Table 18 by the kitchen disposal doors. And sitting directly alongside those malicious strikes was the authorizing signature, unmistakable in red ink, that of Queen Camilla. Murmurs of outrage erupted across the hall like an overturned beehive. Earls, duchesses, and distinguished dignitaries stared in shock at the screen, then turned toward Camilla with palpable disdain and disgust. The Queen's malicious attempt to humiliate the late Queen's only daughter had been laid bare before the entire world without any room for denial. Camilla stood paralyzed in the aisle, trembling from head to toe, her feather fan slipping from her hand to the floor without her even noticing. At that moment, Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped onto the stage. Carrying the deep blue velvet presentation box, she opened the lid to reveal the gleaming gold-gilded chronicle of Anne's 76 years of life. Catherine reverently placed the volume into Princess Anne's hands, worn from a lifetime of service. On the giant screen, the archival retrospective, meticulously curated by William and Catherine, began to play authentic footage, capturing Anne, braving blizzards, venturing into remote lands, and steadfastly defending the crown through every crisis over the past 58 years. The stark contrast between Anne's selfless dedication and Camilla's petty, underhanded machinations stood sharper than ever, moving several senior guests in the audience to tears. The climax of the counterstrike unfolded as King Charles III emerged from the royal entrance and stepped on to the high dais. The monarch's face was stern and solemn. He did not spare a single glance at Camilla, despite her standing right beside the aisle. Charles took the open velvet chest from the commander of the Royal Guard. Before his family and guests, King Charles personally lifted the Brazilian Aquamarine and Diamond Tiara, the sacred heirloom of the late Queen Elizabeth II, and formally conferred permanent private ownership upon his sister Anne. In the resounding voice of a sovereign, Charles declared, "I officially bestow upon Princess Anne the title of Grand Guardian of the Realm, granting her supreme security advisory authority and veto power over all ceremonial matters." Furthermore, the Royal Trust's lifetime endowment for Gatcombe Park takes full legal effect tonight, securing perpetual inheritance for Peter and Zara. Gatcombe Park's Great Hall erupted into thunderous, sustained applause. The brilliant maneuver by William, Catherine, and Charles not only decimated Camilla's scheme, but transformed the gala into a devastating court verdict against a treacherous instigator. Resounding cheers and applause echoed against the hall's stone walls for minutes on end, highlighting the stark contrast between the two sides. At table 1, radiant light enveloped Princess Anne. Peter Phillips and Zara Tyndall stood on either side of their mother, eyes glistening with pride, as the Brazilian Aquamarine Tiara radiated its ocean blue brilliance in her hands. Noble guests began leaving their seats, forming a dignified queue toward table 1 to raise their glasses to Anne and express their utmost reverence for the kingdom's new grand guardian. Conversely, a cold and ruthless psychological retribution unfolded around Queen Camilla. Requiring neither legal tribunals nor open bickering courtly punishment, took the form of absolute ostracization. Camilla stood isolated in the side aisle, an abandoned outcast. Those who had once flattered her and aligned with her on the ceremonial committee hastily backed away, heads bowed, turning their backs to sever all ties in a desperate bid to salvage their own standing. The most devastating severance came from King Charles III himself. Throughout the remainder of the evening, the king offered not a single word, glance, or gesture toward his wife. When he stepped forward to raise a toast with the royal family, Charles completely turned his back on Camilla, raising his glass solely with Anne, William, and Catherine. The monarch's overt coldness before hundreds of distinguished guests was the death knell for Camilla's backroom influence and authority in the palace going forward. Every covert privilege enabling her to tamper with ceremonial arrangements, every scheme to claim Gatcombe Park's lands or seize the aquamarine treasure, was officially erased forever. Overcome by humiliation, unable to endure the piercing, mocking stares and venomous whispers of the nobility, Camilla gripped the hem of her gown, bowed her head, and retreated from the great hall through the dim side exit, the very pathway she had intended Anne to walk. The night of August 15, 2026 drew to a close in the triumph of honor and justice. High upon Gatcombe Park's dais of honor, the image of King Charles III, standing beside Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Princess Anne, raising their glasses in unison, was indelibly etched into royal memory. Camilla's petty divisive machinations had been crushed beneath the weight of truth and integrity. An unbreakable iron alliance across 3 generations was officially established, firmly taking the mantle to lead and protect the dignity of the British crown against all trials of the era. Camilla's complete isolation amidst hundreds of scornful aristocratic gazes. To you, is this a fitting price for her jealousy? Or will a schemer like her refuse to sit idle quietly, preparing an even more sinister revenge? In a sea of videos, I am so glad YouTube managed to bring this one to you. We pour a tremendous amount of care into researching every single detail of these royal histories. I know using a TV remote takes a little extra time, but your like and subscription are the ultimate motivation for our team to keep creating careful, high-quality stories for your screen. Thank you so much for your support.